30.
Nope.
Why? Nah.
Way to go. I had one of those. You played that great. You've done well.
Not fair.
Just a bunch of nits.
Where's that action on the last hand, you know?
Seemed like it was a bad shuffle. Kings were in there, kings there.
All right, so ask and ye shall receive. We bemoaned not getting a pair for just long enough that we get one. Still not a ton to say here. We'll still be using the same open size, but we just have a better hand now. 30.
Maybe I'm going to defend here. Could make an argument for third betting, but for game flow reasons, people have been third betting Matt a lot, and I feel like he might not be in the mood to fold, so I'm going to just go.
Sure. So maybe not the board I was dreaming of, but it is a pretty good board for range. I'm going to have a pretty big advantage in terms of the king X I have, and so therefore I'm going to be betting a really large portion of my range, mostly for a pretty small sizing on a relatively, it's not totally static, but it's a relatively static board, and particularly when I hold the hand I have, I block a lot of the hands that can either sort of make the nuts on more dynamic turns, and I can also make the nuts on some dynamic turns. So I'm going to go for a small sizing here, and plan to probably get 2 streets of value if I remain unimproved. 25.
Not my favorite spot, not my favorite hand. It's going to be pretty hard for us to realize our equity here, but I am going to call one more.
So this is one of those cards that really doesn't change the board at all. I think it's worth considering checking back here to get our last street on the river, but I think that the bet check bet line is so underbluffed, and we block a lot of the hands that she might want to turn into a bluff on river, that it's better to keep going for value more now rather than wait for the river. And you know, some cards we're going to continue value betting probably. The only thing I'm unsure of right now is what I want my sizing to be. I think something in the neighborhood of half pot is pretty reasonable, just as more of a catch-all size. But I'm frankly not positive what size is sort of best, so that's why I'm kind of hedging to something that like probably isn't that bad no matter what actually is best. So looks like there's around 110 in the pot. I wasn't keeping track that well, so I'm just going to go for a pretty in-between size of 50. 50.
Interesting spot here. When I was in the tank there, I kind of talked myself into maybe calling again because I obviously unblock all the natural bluffs, and I think it's a spot where people are going to bluff a lot. I think I am going to call one more time and reevaluate on the river.
So it's not that she can never show up with a king here, but I do think that, especially with our hand, blocking king, queen, 2 kings being on the board, and way more 10x being in range in this big blind defend spot than there might otherwise be in some other spots. I do like going for 3 here, and we can probably start to size up a little bit. I don't think we want to like overbet. I think we sort of put ourselves in a very weird spot there where we might kind of accidentally isolate ourselves against better hands. But going somewhere around like 2/3, 75%, 80% of the pot, I think is good here. There's a little over 100. We put in 100 unturned. So I'm going to go for a size of 150 here to try to get called by a 10.
150?
And again, here, interesting. I mean, I'm pretty bottom of range here, and it's a pretty big brick, and I think that in general, people tend to give up in this spot a lot, just realizing that it's a kind of a bad card to bluff on. However, I mean, my hand just isn't good enough. I mean, I think Matt's definitely capable, and I'd love to flick it in here, but I just have better hands. I don't know. Talking myself into it because I'm blocking this king and I'm blocking all the bluffs. But I mean, really, when he chooses his sizing, he's really telling me he's got like king, queen plus. I don't know that he chooses his sizing with a 10. Talk myself into it.
Oh.
Kings are hot, man. You got queen.
I finally asked for him and I got him.
Ask and you shall receive.
That's literally what I started the hand with. He's a king? So we're not going to get roped in by Landon telling us we're playing our rush. We're just gonna let it go. Discipline, discipline.
I'm surprised you folded.
Another spot that we get to raise on the button. Jack 9 off is fine. We're probably gonna expect to see a check raise and probably defend. We'll see. Or a 3-bet, I mean, whatever.
30?
I have obviously a marginal hand, but I don't mind tossing in $25 and playing a pot with Ethan out of position here. Definitely not going to do anything other than fold or call, so we're going to make the call. On these monotone boards, these are definitely candidates for donk leading out. I'd for the most part like to check range, but on this particular board texture, having a piece and wanting to deny equity from overcards and possible clubs in his hand. Also the fact that I'm protected from I can actually have flop flush here, so I expect him to proceed with a call the majority of the time and not over bluff in this spot. Even though his shirt says folding is boring, I think it's a good spot to bet here and get some calls from overcard clubs and basically get value and fold out the hands that have decent equity that he'll easily fold for 1 bet. Don't need to bet too big either. There's $65 in the pot. I can go around 60%, 50% pot here, so I'll go for $35 donk lead here.
So I find this very interesting, seeing him lead out here on this board. I don't remember if I even have a club. I don't. So yeah, we have a really easy decision, but I feel like just curious as to what hands he's donking out here with. I feel like it's usually super strong, but I have no idea. Maybe a flush, but whatever. We got absolutely nothing, so we're out.
Just gonna be opening all pairs here in this lineup under the gun. So.
All right, so I was looking at 3-bet here. Not gonna go huge. I'm on the button. You have another gun. Just gonna make it standard 3x.
100.
I want to pause here because I do have Broadway cards in my hand and potential for a 4-bet bluff spot with Trevor probably being the player opening the widest from under the gun. And Marley definitely could be capitalizing on her image. Last time she raised, she had kings, showed it. Definitely could be a good spot, especially with my perceived tight range. So we're going to go ahead and do it with these blockers. Make it around $425.
425.
All right, so I go either way here. Kings needs protection. I don't really like to have too much of a 5-bet range in general, but I'm a little bit shorter. Starting the hand with about 1,700. I think I'm trying to put in here. Definitely can have some flat traps with aces or whatever, but I think our hand's just a little bit too vulnerable, and I'm going to just go all in to get value. All in.
All in.
That's my heart rate. Listen. There were so many times where I was in a spot, I have my default and I know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to talk it out because this is poker out loud, obviously. And there was this one particular spot with Marley where I was just going to fold. It was like a raise and then Marley re-raised on the button and I was going to fold, but then I started talking it out and I'm like, well, maybe this is a spot where I could go for a 4-bet bluff. And it was weird because I literally just talked myself into bluffing when I would have not normally bluffed. Of course, Marley had kings and basically punted off pre-flop there. And then once I made that 4-bet bluff, I got really nervous and I could feel my heart like beat. And I was like trying to calm myself down. So I was like, let me look at my heart rate and even see what it is. And it was like 120 something, which was pretty high, obviously. I would say in normal circumstances, my heart rate, my breathing is more under control. But when you add in the factor that you're on camera, the lights are in your face, you're making a bold move and you know that everyone is going to see it, then it adds another level of trying to stay calm. It caused me to like self-reflect and be like, wow, I'm actually really nervous right now. I wonder how nervous I am. So that's when I went, because we're nerds, we're stats guys at the core. So I wanted to see how nervous I was and quantify it.
All right, so small pocket pairs, we haven't really been 3-bet at all when we open under the gun, so I don't know. Let's just hit a 3 on the flop.
30.
All right, so we're not gonna be 3-betting a super wide range first under the gun, but this hand is going to fit into that category. I think in position, I'm just gonna be using a 4x-ish size. Seems to be sort of what people are going with standardly, so that's what I'm gonna go with here, and probably decide versus 4-bet.
25.
Okay. Versus under the gun open and a button 3-bet. We're just very easy cold 4. I'm just thinking of sizing. We started 200 big blinds deep. He made it 125. I'm not raising very much in this spot, so I want to be pretty polar. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go a little bit more than 3x. Normally in spots we want to cold 4. you would call for like 2.2 in position and then like 2.7, 2.8 out. But in this spot, 200 big ones deep, we're gonna go a little bit bigger than that. So we're gonna go 375. Whew. Feels fun to cold 4.
375.
Well, the moment I say that we haven't been 3-bet when we raise our million, we see a little 4-bet too, so we're out.
So this is the kind of spot where with an under the gun open and a button 3-bet, I don't think Landon is going to start to deviate too far from like a pretty standard construction, which means that ace queen offsuit, even though it is a good hand, is not doing so amazing against his range. But with the sizing that he's made it and with the stack depth we have behind, I think this is going to be a pretty standard just call and continue. Or it's going to get dicey on some boards, but I don't think we can just be folding a hand this high up in our range, even though we're going to not win this hand super often, and we'll probably struggle to really get stacks in when we're, you know, way ahead on certain boards. But I still think that this is going to be a good spot to call and not just give up.
Okay, so at first glance it looks like this flop sucks for us, and it's true, it does, but it's good for our overall range because most of the hands that I'm going to cold 4 contain an ace in them, mostly being ace king, ace queen suited, and then some small amount of ace wheel, like ace 5. So in this spot, we're just going to bet our range for a very small size and put a lot of pressure on his pairs smaller than an ace. And he is going to be trapping here a lot with aces because obviously he blocks ace king twice, so if he jams he's probably going to get a fold from me. And the only thing he's really fading when he has aces in his hand is an ace on the flop, because obviously with kings and queens, like the hands I have now, it's going to be quite annoying. So with the amount in the pot, I'm going to choose around 20% sizing, a very small bet. And if there's 370 times 2, 740 plus the open, so there's like 800 in the pot. I'm just going to go for a very small bet here and go like 170. I think 170 can be pretty good.
So this is one of those boards where we do improve, obviously, and we're going to have to continue. It's very unlikely that on pretty much any run out we'll be able to get away with a hand this high up in range. But it is a spot where he's choosing really small sizes, especially. We're definitely never considering folding. Even versus the size, I don't think we're allowed to have any raises. It's just, he just has such a range advantage having all ace king when I have, you know, between some and none, and where he also has aces in range as well. So I'm just going to be calling down here, and it's very unlikely I will find a fold on any street. But you know, in a 4-bit pot, ranges are just narrowing so substantially that even on like bad looking turns and rivers, we may still have to call down. But like maybe on a club turn, club river, there are some spots where we would find a fold. But for right now, definitely going to be just calling and seeing what the turn brings.
Okay, so on this turn, we have queens with no club. Very easy check. I would check a lot of my range here, just because when the ace is on the board and the clubs appear, he's going to have a lot more hands that contain flushes than I do, because the only hand that I would probably cold 4 in this spot that would be a flush would be king queen suited. So because of that, we have to check a lot. I would also check aces and ace king with the club. I would check aces and ace king without our club. And basically, we're at the bottom of our range besides having a hand like tens and jacks. I think I would 4-bet tens in this spot just because kind of how like the game's been playing. So this is probably a pretty easy check, and I'm gonna be very protected on this turn because I'm just gonna check all of my strong hands as well.
Check.
So I was pretty sure we did not have a club here, which is somewhat relevant now that the third club is on board. It's important to note that Landon is probably range betting flop, meaning he's betting every single hand that he arrives at the flop with. And that means that he has, a fair few hands that have showdown value, but aren't an ace, hands like kings through maybe tens or jacks. I think the issue with checking back here is we don't have a lot of clarity on what cards are good or bad. We allow a fourth club to roll off, and that's sort of problematic. Issues with betting are that we still don't have any kind of like massive range advantage. I think he may check some very strong holdings here as well. But we're still sort of in this conundrum where we have a hand that's pretty darn close to top of range now. The only real better hands that we have would be hands like maybe king, queen of clubs, stuff like that, or ace x with a club that has more equity. And those hands are much less vulnerable. So I'm more inclined to bet this hand, even if it's sort of small, just to make sure that we're not allowing free cards to roll off. We're getting a little bit of value out of second pair. I believe the pot's about 1120 now. So with the SPR that we have, there's like something like 1600 behind. It's a little bit unclear what size we should choose. We could go for something pretty small, try to price in some of those weaker hands, but the ones with a club are getting such a great price that it's a little conflicted. I think going something like 300 to allow for a river jam, theoretically with certain parts of my range, is pretty reasonable. But I might like going just a little bit bigger to not give such a great price to some of the hands in his range. So I think I'm going to pick a size of more like 375 and go from there.
$375.
Yeah, we have a very easy fool with this hand. His bet size is really good. He's just basically pressuring my entire range, and he doesn't have to bet that big because the hands that he does decide to bet, if he chooses to bet, are going to be flushes that he has, like the suited broadways that he might get a little bit sticky with pre, and he would just have some sets, like we'll just basically, he'd have eights here, but not at a high, he'd have aces here more than he'd have eights. So if I had a club here, like queens with a club, I would call because we're just drawing, we're getting too good of a price. And without a club, it is a very easy fold. And I'm going to be okay with folding because I have a lot better hands in my overall range. And it's quite painful, but.
Easy.
Ace two.
Easy. What?
3 aces?
No.
Get an ace. What? I had queens. Queens, no club. Unlucky for me.
So I think the hand with ace queen off against Landon is kind of funny because it's a spot where I think on paper a lot of players playing in sort of softer live dynamics are really gonna be facing a pretty tight range anytime somebody is 4-betting them, or especially cold 4-betting them. And so on paper in that sort of dynamic, I think ace queen offsuit looks like it just kind of shrivels up. Like, what are you even doing in there? You could just fold. But against somebody like Landon, who understands some of like the range dynamics involved here, and who's going to be playing much closer to sort of like the way a computer would play in terms of the ranges involved, ace queen offsuit is not like a fun spot to be in there, but it's also not a hand that is functionally terrible against his 4-betting range. And so what ends up happening is like these hands that are pretty much the bottom of what I would continue against a 4-bet are, they're in a tough spot. Like if I don't connect with a flop, but they'll connect pretty non-zero, and they're also sort of protected by some of the other hands in my range that will be a lot stronger. There's also the fact that Landon is not going to be value oriented only in that spot. So he's actually going to have some weaker ace-x hands that are effectively kind of bluffs and just sort of blockers to hands like the hand that I exactly have. But even when we sort of like block each other having those, these confrontations do come up where like one guy has ace-5 suited, one guy has ace-queen, and yeah, I probably never get to stack him with a hand like ace-queen off, but it's still a hand that has enough value to call, especially being able to be in position every additional street the rest of the way.
So because there's no rake, I do want to have a limping strategy, and this hand kind of fits nicely into a limp fold. So that's what we're going to do.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, we have a really horrible hand. A little octo crab going on. Offsuit. We'll see a flop.
So in this spot, we're going to be V-pipping all of our aces in our limp strat, and he's checking back, which means he's less likely to have a strong hand because he just has 100% of hands possible in range. So we don't have to bet very big here. We just have to bet one big blind, and he's going to fold a good bit just because he has a lot of nothing. I'd bet most of our range here for one big blind as well. Basically all of it.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how we stumbled upon this, but here we are. Him betting half pot isn't, I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. Part of me wants to slow play this, but 10 is just way too small. If I were to raise, then kind of playing a hand a little face up here. But I feel like if we're just gonna luck box our way into flopping trips here, we kind of have to put some more money in there. The issue is that I just don't see too many ace highs in his range from limping in the small blind. So sometimes can have spade draws and we can charge for that, but I'm gonna go and slow play this for now and just call.
Okay, in this spot, we have a hand that has no showdown value, and we have a hand that can bluff on river, but we're not really drawing to anything particularly great, and I'm just going to sort of live with that with a hand like this in this spot. Basically, I'm going to have so many hands in my range that I bet one big blind with that I don't even have to stretch by any means of the imagination to try to find bluffs. So because of that, I don't have to start taking some like relatively ambitious hands and turning them into bluffs because I just have enough already. So we're just going to check fold and then bluff rivers depending on what they are.
Well, who knew the octo crab can be a premium here? Him checking isn't ideal. I guess like it's just like this pot's just too small, and if I were to bet, there's just not a whole lot to get called by. That's going to be slowing down here. Like I said, I don't think there's too many ace X's here, and the only thing I can target is maybe a flush draw. So we just have to build a pot, and I'm just kind of praying and hoping he has something that can connect and maybe call. So maybe we can hope he's on a flush draw and see a river, see a spade on the river here. So pot's got like 10, 40 in there, so we'll just go 25.
25?
Yeah, so while it might seem kind of cool to be blocking hands like 8-6 off and 9-8 off, it's just not really that important when he checks back his entire range and just easily has trips here, and as well as some weak ace-x that he doesn't want to raise himself. And we don't have to really reach that hard to find calls, so he's just going to fold into the win. Got a pair? Do you have a pair?
What?
Did you have a pair?
I had a boat.
Oh!
Yeah, yeah,
That's good. So yes, you had many pairs.
yeah,
I had 9 high.
yeah. I was hoping you'd have something, but
I didn't.
yeah.
So like I said before, I'm not going to be doing lipping, and I'm going to open this hand, and I'm going to open it a bit bigger.
40?
Oh, definitely have a really good hand here, blind versus blind. She makes it a little larger than normal, which is fine. 4x from the small blind. Definitely could play my hand as a call or a raise. Just depends on how loose I think she is. I think that given that this is like the third time that she's came to her small blind and I've been in the big blind, it's the first time she's actually put some money in the pot. I'm gonna go ahead and just call after the last King's debacle. Definitely a mix here.
Okay, so definitely have to play very cautious in this spot. I obviously have the nut low, no equity, but it's not a good board for me. I'd probably just fold a lot of hands that have a pair, like a lot of my deuces and threes just fold pre, and just move the way, sorry, in blind versus blind pots and monotone boards, you just need to play pretty passive. So I'm gonna start with a check, go from there.
Definitely a spot where I can have the best hand and actually get a little bit of value if she holds a diamond in her hand that's higher than the 10, obviously. I can obviously check back as well and just go to showdown and play the passive route. I think I'm gonna check this flop and perhaps see what happens on the turn. Maybe I can bet the turn depending on how she plays it.
All right, so he checks, and I think this is probably a good time to start betting. I do block a lot of the 10s. Not that it really matters much. I mean, you can just have like any Broadway 10. I mean, honestly, my hand's just so bad. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to fire 2 bullets. He's probably not gonna fold ace high to 1 bet. And I really just hate putting money in here with such a bad hand. Although I am stone bottom. I think I am going to reluctantly just give up because I'm going to have to fire 2. So I'm going to check.
Likely going to be ahead here. In the event that she does have a hand that contains the ace of diamonds or the king of diamonds, could probably bet really small here on the turn and have her call and squeeze out the tiniest of value here, expecting the river to go check on bricks. So I think I'll do that here, bet the turn for a really small sizing, freezing the action on the river, likely going check on river bricks. Obviously I can improve to an ace or a jack that's not a diamond on the river and bet 2 streets now, but tentative plan is 1 street for a really small sizing here on the turn.
$25.
And obviously, we're at the nut low here, in that bottom of the range, so I'm just going to fold.
No wonder he's 4-betting you listening to that. Did you hear that?